What's up, everybody? How we doing?
Good, doing well, my friend. And it's been a long minute since you've been on the podcast. So,
It
uh,
has.
give us just a quick background of what you're working on, and then we're going to talk about the life stories in the last couple years.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to be back. That's for sure. Things got chaotic for a minute, but last time I was on was probably almost 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe more, maybe 2.5 years ago. I'm not sure, but I had a plan of action at the time that I ended up executing. I hope we can get to it in this
oh, yeah.
podcast here, and we can go over some of it and what happened. But basically, right as I got to the turning point, setting up the dome and all that stuff, we got hit with Hurricane Helene, and everything got destroyed. So, uh, we can save some of that and maybe dive into that a little bit. As the podcast goes on. I don't know how much of the story I should tell, but it's pretty complicated.
No, we're gonna definitely.
Nice.
Let's start with your background, your connection to soil, and your desire for eating healthy and clearing the mind and becoming mind, body, spirit. I think that's the real meat and potatoes behind
Absolutely, because like we said, it was on it like what 2.5 years ago. But there's a lot of new people that are going to tune in. There's a lot of people that didn't hear the last one, so I'll give a good overview of the background. The name of the podcast, "The Soil Matters," my connection to Leighton, and then we can talk about why things are the way they are right now and what the solutions would be, and which is really the essence of the business and why we're here in the first place. And so, you know, my experience goes back to when I was 14 years old, and this is my background. I was obsessed with working out and optimizing human performance for football and training for sports and stuff like that. So I hit the weight room every other day, squatted and deadlifted every other day, got really into the food, got really into the nutrients, and how that impacts our overall health, how that impacts our performance. But I basically became obsessed with training. And that kind of set the precedence for my life path of health and fitness, right? And then I went to college for a year. I had already been personal training people up to that point, even in high school and stuff like that. And college was certainly not for me. I loved the football, but I was not. I was in communications and stuff, and none of that resonated with me, right? Which I look back and I'm actually very happy that all happened the way it did. And so when I was at college, I had an experience with Western medicine that was asinine. It was brutal. It really opened my eyes to the world of our medical industry, pharma, health, and holistic health. And I essentially, I subscribed to Gaia, dove down the rabbit hole, and figured out a lot of things that, a lot of people are suppressed and don't understand until they have to go through something, or one of their loved ones has to go through something. And then they kind of open their eyes to why things are the way they are, why the most advanced society in the history of the world is getting sicker and sicker, which is what all of this is really comes down to, that and quality of life, right? So I had this experience with Western medicine, and I just kind of realized that natural health was the most optimal way, whether it was performance or healing or both of those, because they're cut from the same stone. At that very same time, I left college and I found Leighton. And so we were already buddies. We'd been buddies because I graduated with his daughter. I was always over at the house, and we would just connect and talk about all the deepest topics. I actually couldn't wait to talk to Leighton. Every time I was going to be near him, I had questions for him all prepared, whether it would be aliens, whether it be health, soil, that whole deal. So we always connected on that kind of deeper realm. And when I got troubled with this Western medicine situation, and I had dropped out of college, I was looking for work, and he was at that very time, 2-3 years into the regenerative soil process development, and with your mind, that's like 20 years of somebody else diving into it. So he was deep into it, and he had already gained a lot of traction and basically come up with this remarkable process that he was now ready to expand on. And he was going to Rodale Institute in Pennsylvania every week, and he needed a workhorse. And so, am I right there, Leighton? That's
Oh God, yeah.
accurate.
Man, you were covered top to bottom with freaking compost extract every day. Never complained. Heat, cold, didn't matter.
Oh, we had a blast with it too. I mean, and that's what set the precedent for me to have this purpose, right? A lot of people are always fighting to find their purpose in life, or what lights them up, their passion. A lot of times their job might not be that. But at 19 years old, the frustration that I had with Western medicine, the frustration with the sickness and the deception within our system, and then along with the passion of human performance and optimization, when you find out that if there's one single thing in our society that we could alter or adjust to impact our health and improve our health and quality of life more than anything else, it's addressing soil. And Leighton gifted me with that understanding at a time where that is what I was interested in. And that was what lit me up through the frustrations and through the passion, right? So it was very aligned, and I didn't have to think twice. I said, I'll drop everything else. I want to assist with this. I want to learn this. I want to be a part of it. And to this day, the message has only become stronger. The predictions of where our society's headed, what's needed, the awakening of more people understanding these things has only doubled, tripled down, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I'm still building in this process of this vision and how it all came together, but this set the precedent of it, and it couldn't have been more spot on at the time. It's only become more relevant, more spot on, and that's a beautiful thing. So I'm grateful for that gift of not only providing me with the understanding that soil is really the foundation of all of this, and if we could make the most impact in one area to reverse this implosive path and this chronic health disease, it would start at the soil. But not only did you provide me with that understanding, but a solution that I could digest, one that was, I didn't need to be a biologist really to understand. It was a solution in a process that made a ton of sense. It was very clear. And I was the one doing all the work, like the workhorses with the buckets and stuff like that. So I was in there. He's under the microscope and he's giving me lessons and stuff like that. But I'm doing the work of how the process is, a lot of, the manpower and moving the buckets and cleaning everything. And so I got to understand his process and really actually the simplicity of it and how sustainable and regenerative it is. And it was just beautiful. And here we are, what, 10 years later, 11 years later?
Longer than that, Perks. That was in 2010. So we're 15 years in.
Oh, God. Wow. So it's just so cool that although what I have hasn't fully come to life and blossomed, and to see where you've come is beautiful, because so many people just learning and understanding in your knowledge and skill set, I knew would be in so much demand, and now it is. It really is. People everywhere are starting to need someone like Leighton in his understanding. And Leighton's got one of those minds. I mean, people listening probably understand this because they've been on the podcast for a long time. But Leighton's got one of those minds where if he is interested and dives into something, it's over. It's good luck keeping up with them. And that's one of the things I've tried to do is dumb it down for other people, and with the course and stuff like that, make his process applicable, and bring that to the masses a little bit more, bring some attention to it in the ways that I know how, which is kind of the solution that I created. But yeah, we go back 12 years ago. It's only gotten more relevant, and the process it's still unmatched. When I see other solutions, when I see other things going on, I'm like, yeah, but you could just do this. We could just do this, right? And so the importance of that is astounding, and I'm blessed and grateful that that's where the journey started, and that's where we've gone from there.
So did you see the news today that RFK Jr. has gotten so much traction that a lot of major chains are taking out food coloring or natural food coloring, natural preservatives, all of the shit that's been poisoning us. And these are major hitters like Shake Shack, Nestle's, Hershey's. I mean, like across the board. Right. And then all the ice cream manufacturers are taking out artificial colors. Right. I mean, that dude in 6 months less has created something that we, the people, have been screaming for since I was a young father, right? Yeah. But we talked about going organic and refusing vaccinations for our children. We got away with it, but we had to, convince our doctor to lie and say that he vaccinated our children.
Jump through hoops.
Yeah, it was fucking nuts. And even then, when we bought organics, it was organics. Now, right. They've
had nutrients.
Fucking played games with it.
It's all lingo.
100% inorganic, and you can still call it organic.
Yeah, and hopefully that's one of the things that he can really impact. And one of the things that I would love for him to focus on is changing up that lingo and not being able to deceive people by saying natural this and that, because especially the last generation, it was like there was just no understanding that could be completely deceptive and not make any sense, and that there's 8 different categories of eggs and that they make them sound healthy. And then you got chains like Subway or Tropical Smoothie Cafe putting on this healthy persona and using all these healthy terms and labels, yet they're just completely toxic and just as bad as some of the other stuff that doesn't use any of that. So hopefully he can clear up some of the lingo. And I think what he's doing right now is he's having the blunt force impact on the very obvious surface level stuff, right? So these contaminants, the high fructose corn syrup, the artificial dyes and colorings, the natural dyes and colorings, stuff like that, that's just been so proven to be toxic to us. He's going to make the first initial impact that he's making is getting rid of that stuff. This is the obvious stuff, like you've said, that for so long there's just no excuse for, especially when other countries have better regulations. They make 2 products, one for the US and one for other countries.
What the fuck is that?
Incredible. Every single person in this country should be furious about that. You want to have a protest? That's like, how about before anything else, let's stop getting poisoned, like directly, right? And then to people just go into the stores blindly and just support it. It just shows the level of the depth of consciousness, the depth of character, the product that this system and the economic powers behind it have created within people. And they just don't understand it, especially the last generations. If you tried to talk about these things, you were demonized as more of a hippie, this and that. I would say that led a lot all the way up until COVID. When I first started with you, regenerative agriculture, soil, organics, it was still like, well, who cares? It's hippie fluff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, until Trump got elected, we could never have hoped of anything like make America healthy again. Like, what the fuck are people protesting about against that? Like, it's insane. It kind of makes me realize or think that more than half of our population are drones. They just do what they're told without.
I think that's what it exploits, and I think that's not even an opinion. That's just a reality of it. If you're sitting there debating someone for wanting to make the world a healthier place and reduce pain, suffering, disease, disorder, I mean, what kind of animal are you? And that you're gonna choose that. There's only one reason you're gonna choose that is because you're emotionally influenced and not logically influenced, and that you're not thinking for yourself. It doesn't matter how good it is. It doesn't matter any of that. You're just gonna go with what you've been emotionally manipulated to do, and that exploited a lot of people. And I keep saying this, and I'm not at this point. I'm not trying to be too frustrated about it, but the vaccine did that better than anything.
Oh God.
The vaccine and the way that people responded to the vaccine exploited people's depths of consciousness and character, which is something that I evaluate everything on more than anything in the history of our society. So for especially young, healthy people my age, there was never a reason to sit back and trust this. And the people that care about health and alternative health knew this. I'm in the health and fitness world. Everyone that's really healthy and that is into holistic health and understands food, nutrients, all the stuff we're talking about, that cares about health and takes the extra step to understand it, went, oh no, this is sketchy. This doesn't make sense. And the way that they're pushing it and marketing it, in the whole dynamic behind it was dark, and it didn't make sense. There was never a real reason to trust it, and there was a lot of reason not to trust it. Yet you had people that don't care about health that were entitled enough to go, you need to get it, you need to get it. And so I keep saying, if you got the vaccine because you had to, or because you were in a situation you needed to travel, you needed to go see family, I understand. I get it. You got the vaccine, whether you're just scared, whatever it is, you had to get it. That's not who I'm demonizing. I'm demonizing the people that were entitled enough to look at the health community, which was the primary people saying, I'm not getting it, and say, you're a bad person. You deserve to die. Like, you can't come into our parties. You can't do this. You can't do that. Those people exploited themselves for not only being dumb and unaware of their surroundings, but for not caring about health and having a ton of entitlement and shitty character to push it on the people that do care about making this world a better place. So I think the vaccine exploited people's depth of consciousness and character more than anything in recent years, any debatable topic.
And another thing too that it did was when people were sitting around, after a month, they started questioning, what am I doing? Like, I have all this free time. I can read, I can walk, I can pet my dog. I've been on a treadmill for so fucking long that I don't even know why I'm doing it anymore.
Rat race to
that
know.
was fucking huge, dude. And then after that was a boom on organics, regenerative farming. All of these things really became a hot topic because people were taken off the treadmill. So in many ways, they shot themselves in the ass. Like they figured out how many sheep they have on the planet based on how many people vaccinated. But then they realized, oh fuck, we don't even have full 50% control.
Yeah.
I think the numbers are coming back now that less than 50%. I mean, they boasted that, 80% of people got the shots. And if you didn't, you're going to cause illness on us, right? That was just fucking insane. But I think it's closer to 50-50. So that means that, the powers that be, these globalist fucking elites,
that openly lied to us about the entire thing at this point. It was open, and people want to protest about things that matter. They openly poisoned, created the most catastrophic health, long-term health issue. Catastrophic. They injected this into the population, whether it be population control. Why? There's a ton of conspiracy about it. The result and the fact that it happened is not a conspiracy nor an opinion. It is what it is. This is what's happening. And there's a ton of terrible things as an after effect because of the vaccine that many people just don't even want to have the conversation about or acknowledge. And it gets no attention because they're in control of what provides that attention, the media, this and that, in the narrative, right? So, I mean, they shot themselves in the foot, but it did something so beautiful, something that we have been, not me and just me and you, but the holistic health community has been deprived of and thirsty for, which was an awakening and an understanding that this system is implosive, it's toxic, it's destroying quality of life, and that we need to reverse this. And it starts with our own frequency and our own understanding and being able to push back, which to me, I said it on the last podcast, that is our test. Do we have the depth of consciousness and character to understand our circumstances, to acknowledge the truth in it, find the unbiased truth in it, and then act accordingly? Or are we just going to roll over and let this happen? Because that's our test of life. I mean, of our future. Are we worthy of a future, or are we just going to become implosive drones that are continuously getting sicker and angrier, more depressed, more stagnant? And so reversing that starts with the people and the collective depth of consciousness and character, the collective frequency, which is made up of a ton of individual frequencies and a ton of individual understandings, and where those people are putting their time and energy. Like, what are these people doing? What is your daily life? And I think that standard has to change. And it starts with awakening and people getting frustrated with things like the COVID vax. And they can't push that on us. Now people are like, I'm upset. I want better. I want better for my future generation, because reality is, for people like me and my generation, we don't want to bring a kid into the world that's statistically getting more and more challenging for them, from economics to health crises and stuff like that. So we, as the people, kind of need to wake up and put some time and energy or purpose into creating something new, which is what this whole vision that we'll get into is designed to help. And I think most people's standard is like, take care of me, have a family, and that's great. And that's like, but that's not the ceiling. That should be the standard, in my opinion. That's the standard, because if you aren't going to contribute to making the collective better, you're going to get what we have. So you can't let all these things from the outside just dictate the quality of life we're going to have, and then just do your job and go, do whatever you want and bring kids into that world. People just get their job, they have their kids, they're so focused on that, and that's great. But there just needs to be a little bit more contribution to the collective and how we are going to change this, fight the regulations, make them better, get rid of these dyes. Let's get some action here. Let's get something done with this.
So let's back it up and talk about the health crisis that you went through that opened your eyes.
Right. So I got actually a couple notes here. I asked ChatGPT, I said, what are the top 10 diseases created by our food systems? And all of these have statistically increased in incredible amounts. So if somebody's interested in this whole thing, or they just are starting at a basis level, just kind of having their own awakening about this health and holistic process, this is valuable to them. And so our food systems are directly contributing to a massive increase in obesity, very obvious, right?
Yep.
Type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension and high blood pressure, fatty liver disease, and probably the biggest one, in my opinion, cancer and the carcinogens, inflammatory bowel disease, osteoporosis, autoimmune disease, foodborne illnesses, and allergies. That's just the first 10. The list goes on. But statistically, and if you align it with what's happened in monoculture and farming, there's a direct correlation between how we were doing that in the past and what started to shift when these diseases started to increase. The science is there. This is what's causing all of these health issues that we're then treating with Western medicine, but we're not curing. And so now that you got the machine that runs the other machine, you got Western medicine really not solving any of this, because I don't even know if it can, right? It's stopped creating it. We have to stop creating it. We have to rebuild the foundation, not just try to fix the issue at the surface, right? And so that's where, again, this vision comes into play. So we're essentially, through farming and through food production, we're creating nutrient and mineral deficient foods that do not fuel ourselves, plants that have nothing in them. Okay. And on top of that, we're consuming contaminants that disrupt the gut and influence disease with the chemicals inside them. So the herbicides, the pesticides, the preservatives, all that type of shit is what's contributing to it. And so that starts with some monoculture, right? That starts with the way the food system's designed. And monoculture is these massive farms that use heavy synthetic fertilizers, tons of synthetic fertilizers that deplete the soils and the minerals, and use synthetic fertilizers that don't feed the microbiology in the soil, but feed the plant with nitrogen. So what you get is product that has nothing in it. And if you look at, so the plants grow faster, they get more, maybe not more yield in the regenerative practice, but they know they can count on the yield, right? And these depleted soils that have nothing in them just by growing these fake plants. And what you get are these health issues that create the two biggest issues in human health. So as like a holistic health coach, people that are doing blood work for people, holistic doctors, what do they find that the real issues are, instead of just writing a prescription for a pharmaceutical or something like that? The real issues come down to mineral and nutrient deficiencies and metabolic health. And this is directly caused by the lack of things that we're getting that fuel our bodies and allow us to be healthy and strong and fight and strengthen our immune systems, and destroy our gut and contaminate us. So there's two ends. It's a double-edged sword. We're not getting what we need to, and we are getting bullshit that creates disease. And this is because of monoculture and the way that the food system's designed. Every year, and you can probably dive down to the rabbit hole of this better than anyone I've ever met, I love hearing you talk about it, is they dump more and more synthetic fertilizers into the areas that they're growing these plants. And they need to. So they're increasing the yield of synthetic fertilizers, increasing their pesticides and herbicides, and that's destroying the microbial health. So the pesticides and herbicides are a whole other thing. Those are more on the carcinogenic end because they're designed to destroy life. The very life that we're supposed to cultivate in the soil, this is the understanding that Leighton instilled in me at a young age, is being killed by these pesticides. It's all about the biology. It's being killed by these pesticides and these herbicides, which creates deficiency, gives us lifeless organic matter that we consume and think it's healthy. And then obviously has the carcinogens and the chemicals that create this. So you got the synthetic fertilizers producing nothing. You got the herbicides and pesticides and the preservatives that are killing us and poisoning us. And then you got your soil erosion and tillage, which is really just so destructive for the environment. It's destroying the microbial life in pretty much everything because it builds off of root networks and they transfer nutrients and the mycorrhizal fungi. So these networks that basically cultivate the biology and build the micro ecosystems that produce our foods are destroyed. And this doesn't just happen in the farms. This happens throughout pretty much all of our development, or our rural, everywhere. This happens everywhere. This happens in our cities. This happens in our rural areas. This happens where we develop everything. The soils get compacted. They get contaminated. It destroys our filtration and our water, and in the way that the water absorbs, the way the soil absorbs water, because it creates the inability for the water to filtrate through the soil. It's compact and it just runs off, and then you have the contaminants in that runoff going into our waterways, So people just treating their yards, it's the same concept as the monoculture. It's just we're not consuming those as much, but it's just as destructive. It's delusional, especially when you have a process like Layton's that can fix this, right? So
Perky, you never answered the question.
what was the question?
What was the illness that fucking lit you on fire? What happened?
When I got sick?
Yeah, what happened?
I just had some gut issues going on that weren't really. There was like not much there. It's a wild story, actually. Sorry.
That's all right.
Phone call. It's my grandma's house. I'm in the Cape. She got it. No, she didn't.
That's all right. Just keep talking. We can hear you. Don't worry.
So that's a wild story. Okay. And I probably won't get into the whole story, but I had some issues down in the gut area that weren't bad at all. And I wasn't even sure if there was a real issue. So I just went to a clinic and I was like, hey, what's going on here? This and that. And they go, oh yeah, it's probably this. Just take this. No real test, no evidence, anything like that. So, oh, cool. I was 19. I didn't know. I took pre-workouts. I took all this crap. And so I took it. That created a little something like now things were happening. I'm like, So I went back to him. I said, hey, I don't know if it's intensified or what, but now I got this going on. And they were like, okay, just take this. Boom, sent me on my way. I'm 19 years old. I'm like, oh, cool. So I took that. I'm like, now things are really messed up. And what I started to feel was psychological. I was starting to get like really lethargic and like kind of crazy. And I was like, this is wild. Like, what's going on here? I went back. They gave me another thing. And that was when it was an antibiotic. I think they gave me prostate medicine. They gave me like this crazy stuff that I was like, once I thought to look into it and not trust them, I was like, wait a second. I looked it up and I said, this is so irrelevant to what I have. And they just guessed it. And there's all these side effects and these things that it can cause. And now I had some actual issues. Before it was like nothing. They created all the issues within inside me. So I was pissed. I'm a very prideful human being, if you can't tell. I was ready to go back there. And so that's when I said, what the hell is that? That's a doctor? The way the process didn't even make sense to me. Dove down the rabbit hole and here we are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's the lesson that I was looking for was you got to do your own homework. You got to do research. Remember when research was reading something, and then during COVID, it was like, oh, don't do your own research. Don't educate.
Don't do your own research. Trust the untrusted, the least trusted.
Yeah. As soon as you hear "trust me," squeeze your butthole as tight as you can because you're about to get raped, and that's fact in business and in medical, right? Trust me. This is the pill you need. No, it isn't. That's going to create a side effect that I need another pill for.
Yeah.
I got a buddy. You know him. He's 3 years younger than me. He has the whole case, dude. The whole case with all the pills for every day of the week. And he's always adding to it. It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying.
Always adding. And that's actually a high percentage of our society. And it's so toxic. And it's not curing anything. And the real cure is to fix the foundation, which is starts at the soil. It starts at the food. It starts at the contaminants. It's all about the biology.
Dude, food was our medicine.
Food was our medicine. You are what you eat.
Until the 30s, when Rockefeller really got a hold of the medical schools, the pharmaceutical companies, and he just blew this up. And that was his goal, man. Take over, make everybody as sick as possible so they have to slave for you at work, and they never have enough money to support themselves and to think freely. So keep them sick, keep them stupid.
Keep them at a low frequency so they don't become aware that this is happening. And the reasons why they do all that, people say it's just profit, it's just this, it's just that. To me, I'd go on for days about it, but there's conspiracy. There's a bunch of different possibilities, right? But the fact that it's happening is not. This is our reality, and we have to stand against it. That force is always going to be there. How we respond is what matters. And that's what you see with RFK right now, which is great. And that's what you see with people like you, people like me, and that's what this whole real movement is about. So we get into what would the solutions be, and how do we fix it, which is what you essentially opened my eyes to at the age of 19, and has only become more and more accurate.
Yeah, and again, that's the reason why I do this podcast every week is hopefully I can wake up enough people, and those people get pissed off and frustrated, and they tell other people, and so on and so on. Because at the end of the day, it's the ants and the grasshoppers, right? And there's way, way more ants than grasshoppers. So
There's way more ants than grasshoppers.
We just need to wake up enough ants, and then they're going to be like, "F these grasshoppers,
Right.
man! Enough is enough." I mean, the fact that Europe has different foods than we do from the same manufacturers, how did we allow that?
Yeah, how are we allowing that? Right? How is people not doing anything about that? How do you accept that and just roll with it? And I think that's this topic right now, awakening more people, the it's all about the biology podcast, it all coming down to soil, is really the essence of the Thunderdome and what this vision really is about. Because when I started with you, I was like, oh my, this is amazing. I was so intrigued by it, passionate about it. And like you said, I realized that quickly most people didn't care. Most farmers didn't even know about it. They didn't know what was going on. And so that's where the solution started to develop. And you say, well, the real issue here isn't just monoculture. It isn't just local farms. It's getting people to want to make this change. And how do you do that? It's not making it a chore for them, but getting them to really dive in and understand the mission and want to be a part of it and want to go do it. And that's what the Dome really is. It's an attraction, right?
All right, so I'm going to get a glass of water because I didn't get a chance to hydrate before this call. So I want you to quickly explain, or take your time, explain what it is that you're doing at this point in time. Because that is the next step, right? After we get soil and we get clean food, the next step is the Dome in every way, shape, and form.
Right. And hopefully the Dome is what can get the people interested. It's almost an attraction to this movement and bring them over to the movement and provide essentially a character that helps to drive this movement by empowering localized food production and restoring natural health in our soil, our food, and ourselves. That is the mission. The purpose of the business was to raise vibration and elevate consciousness by enhancing connection with ourselves, each other, and the earth. And the vision is to create the Thunderdome everywhere, which is essentially a character for not only localized farming, but for essentially restoring natural health throughout our ecosystems, even in our rural areas, everything like that, which we can get into. One of my friends that I met in Florida has a food forest business called Bring Back Eden. And I love that, the Garden of Eden, right? I love that name. And it's essentially the solution that we need. We need to stop contaminating our food. We need to stop contaminating our lawns. And we need to kind of take this regenerative approach, which can be done with Layton's process. And I'm trying to essentially leverage Layton's process by creating a natural health center that builds community and gains resources that can be redirected into the development of our soil, our food, and ourselves. So I've always been in health and fitness, right? And I've always someday wanted a gym, which I don't want a strip mall gym by any means. That lifestyle is not what I want. And so I took my knowledge of health and fitness and the human microbiome and the knowledge of the soil microbiome and how that basically influences the rest of it. That is the foundation. And I said, how can I bring this all together to one concept? And it's essentially a concept that all of health and fitness should be getting behind, right? So everybody's on the surface kind of selling their own products, selling this, selling that. But how do we kind of bring everything together, all these gyms, all these supplement lines, anyone that really cares about health together to be that large group of ants against the grasshoppers that is able to fix the foundation of these things? Because so many people are focused on the issues. They focus on the issue. They talk about the issue. Everybody's starting to become aware of the issue, but I hear so little about the solution. I hear so little about how we're going to fix this. Even some of the major influencers, the people that have the money to talk about this stuff, that have big podcasts and stuff, I sit back and I go, why aren't you doing this? Why hasn't this happened? And essentially, the idea is to have a high frequency of operations at a low intensity that are designed to reestablish and revamp localized food production and regenerative food production. And the way that we do that is through this natural health center called the Thunderdome. So the reason it's a dome is, one, it symbolizes unity. Two, it's the strongest structure known to man. Triangles are the strongest shape. It stacks like triangles. So the Buckminster Fuller design is very sustainable. It's very strong. The second you talked about that, I was obsessed with it. Three, it's very easy to construct and take down. So you can do zero net energy. If you wanted to put it up somewhere and you wanted to take it down, it would be less work than a conventional build, and it would destroy that environment and destroy that nature less. It would have less of an impact on that nature, which we don't want to destroy any root networks, as minimal as possible, right? We don't want to take away from any soil ecosystems. So essentially, the idea was, when I got into this with you, we started going to farms, and we realized that these farms had nothing. Local farming was dying, and it had no support. It had no knowledge, because they'd been using conventional models. They didn't know how to switch to regenerative. Most people didn't have a clue. And if they did, they were scared to do it because they could risk their yield. They could risk their livelihood. So they didn't have the knowledge. They didn't have the support and resources. Most local farms were just a family trying to survive. If they produced something, it wasn't much. And they needed a lot of support. So local farming was basically being eliminated. There's some statistics out there of the incredible amount of farms that we lose year over year, and it's continuing. And what's happening is the issue that we faced back in Massachusetts is it's being rezoned for development, and they're just pushing us towards the monoculture that's destroying us. So they're controlling our food systems. In order for us to take our health back, we need to start to create other options, and create options that we know for a fact. We don't have to question through false FDA, false regulation, false terminology, something that we can trust and that we know has nutrient dense, mineral dense, healthy food, right? And the best way to do that is local. It will always be local. The further away you go, the more preservatives, the more packaging, the more gas, the more shelf life. There's not a single benefit from getting the food further away. And that doesn't mean it has to be, every food operation has to be within a mile. That's not the point. It can be 20, 30 miles, right? But we need more localized food production that is on a higher frequency. So there's more operations that are smaller at a lower intensity. So the idea was to go to these farms that have nothing with the solution. The first solution, we know how to fix your soil. They can't afford it. They don't know, they can't hire us. They're not willing to make the switch. Well, how can we eliminate the downside to them so that we can revamp this farm and get it to produce stuff and make it into something? And that's where the character of the Thunderdome comes in. We add a natural health center to this farm that hosts exercise classes, which would be my schedule, educational courses, and events. So we build community that gains resources. What do people like? They like exercise. They're already spending money on it in strip malls, which is outside of nature. Nature's the source of our health. We might as well go back to areas that we can do some grounding. We can do some outdoor classes. We can get integrated into the soil, right? So the exercise can get shifted to these natural health centers. Then we can have educational courses. People will love to pay to become smarter and more equipped. And then we have events, musical events, competitive events, cornhole tournaments, volleyball tournaments, spike ball. I do jujitsu and Muay Thai. We can have fights. We can have competitive tournaments, jujitsu tournaments, and stuff like that. And all of that stuff would be contributing and having a portion of it go towards the development of that facility, the soil with our process, which we know how to do, and the land around it. And once we maximize that facility and we maximize what that's producing with pretty much no risk to the farmer, what it can produce for the local community as far as food goes, well, now we work out into the local community and we say, hey, we have some of this compost tea. We have some of this secret sauce. We can help you treat this land and your land and help you build gardens with local garden programs, and then something called eco-friendly fundraising, which was designed to partner with school systems and give the farm another source of revenue. So essentially they would grow seedlings, give them to a school system. The school system would sell them as their fundraisers instead of selling candy bars, cookies, which is for some reason they still push all of that, even though they know it's terrible for us. But they could use that for their fundraisers, and it'd be a program for them to generate some revenue and get people involved in growing their own food and get them connected to the dome, which would then generate more resources. So we revamp this farm, and then the goal is to replicate that in all these different areas. And if somebody's going to open their own health and fitness practice, let's say they do Pilates, well, instead of building it in a strip mall, well, why don't you build it onto this farm in this structure and support this movement? And now you have this cool facility on the farm where you can, it's a multi-purpose facility. You can create revenue in several ways, and you can be a part of something a little bit more where we basically connect the entire holistic health and health, food, and farming network. And this is how we rebuild the foundation. So the goal would be to have 1 to 3 of them in every town, of all different shapes and sizes, of all different specialties, right? So maybe you have 3 in one town, and one of them focuses a little more on dairy, one of them focuses on chickens and eggs, but they all have the regenerative concept of biodiversity on the farm, having different components and establishing something for bees and something for fruits and vegetables, and then rotating any animals and rotating any crops. So this is like the essence of regenerative agriculture that really can't be done in a monoculture format. And that's why these corporations won't make the switch. The regulations aren't going to make the switch. Nothing's going to make the switch unless it's the people. And the people need a reason, and they need to want to do it. And this is how you get them interested. We play, we do all sorts of cool, fun stuff. Health and fitness, education, and the events. You have DJs, you have music, you have live music, you have all these ways of bringing people together behind this movement that give back to them directly and watch the beauty that this movement creates. I don't really see much of another solution. And that's why I've always stuck with this. It makes sense to me. It's not going to happen through grants. Grants don't really help that much. They really don't. If you talk to all these local farmers, it's not going to happen through, we want to change the regulations. That's going to take a long time. Plus, that's the surface level of looking at the issue. We need to shift and create the solution and start that ASAP.
So, Perky, what I would encourage you to do, and everybody listening to this podcast, is send a letter to RFK. Apparently, he actually reads them. And ask him to take farm insurance away from any farmer that is not farming regeneratively. That'll force all those motherfuckers to switch over because they live on crop insurance. There's no rain in the Midwest. If you don't have farm insurance, you're out of business the first year. Yep. And even if you do have farm insurance, you lose a little bit more every year. You get deeper and deeper behind because
it's enabling the issues.
Yeah, it's enabling the problem.
Yes.
So if we just say, hey, RFK, just get in there. The government is who's paying the farmers to their insurance. So just tell them you get no insurance unless you're regenerative. Period. End of subject. You just fixed the scale on a level that is uncomprehendable.
Right. And then it would be up to the creation of that. Right. So now, like, if he'd made that regulation, it would be probably the most powerful turning point impact thing that he could do. Yeah. Now it's about rebuilding. Yeah. Now it's about creating that. How are they going to do that? That's where your process would be like a no-brainer. But who knows how to do it, right? And then, like, the ability for that person to fund it, or maybe they can have a grant or something that goes along with that regulation. But the ability to fund it, the ability to upkeep it, and have a staff, and have people that are working that land, that's where, like, how do we create that? And that's where the Thunderdome comes up. This natural health center will fuel that process for any land that it's a part of. And this network of all these different farms and all these different regenerative practices that work together will help to expand each other. Imagine, there's an event over here, and then there's an event over here, and there's an event over here. And all these things are making money to put towards the development of this movement and support these local farms to switch to regenerative practices, to cultivate better soil, and to hire employees, which is something that they all struggle to do. People say, go support your local farmer. That's how we're going to switch this movement. I go, that's how we're going to switch this movement if you want to move like a snail.
Yep. Glacier racing.
Yeah. I've commented on Regenerative America on one of their Instagram posts. I said, I agree, like, support your local farmer. But we're going to move just as fast as we've been moving by doing that. Like, we need something to amp this whole thing up, to get people involved, to get people interested, something to bring to it. And just building the farms out isn't necessarily that, right? It's almost like creating a commercial character to drive this thing.
Well, the biggest problem we have is that, there's farmers markets, and they are well attended. but that's not mainstream. Not everybody has the luxury of being able to go to the farmer's market and pay farmer's market prices. The people that do go understand what they're getting, right? But we need to get that food into the grocery store.
Yeah.
And
For the people
without
that don't care.
yeah, without the poison for people that don't have the time because they're working 2 fucking jobs to keep their head above water.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of those out there, dude. You know,
90%.
we're both very lucky that we can work in something we're passionate about and love, and not consider it a job. But most people are stuck in a job that they don't like or is not rewarding, gives them nothing back, and they're so exhausted and tired by all the stress and pressure that they just want to go to the grocery store and buy some food and go home and deal with it. Right.
Yeah. So, right. And so exactly. And that's most people. That's 90%. Right. Yeah. And so supporting the local farmer market is it's kind of like talking to the people that already care instead of accessing that group of people, the majority of people that aren't going to make the switch. How do you get them to want to do it? That's where this attraction comes in. That's where something that they already do and are interested in is now redirected, and it's put towards, hey, look over here, let's do this. And then they start to come to events and they start to understand it. They go do their health and fitness there. Their Pilates coach opens a gym that's like this. That's where they start to really support the movement and get involved in the movement. I just feel like it's an attraction that would wake people up faster and provide them a direct way to kind of be involved and support it.
You know, another thing too is that I've always told you that music, concerts, competitions, that's how to pull these people out from
that's the whole essence of the project right there.
Yep. That's how to get them awakened.
Yeah, because it's not, they probably hear us talk about organic food. They see it in the store, and there's a reason they haven't jumped ship, and they got to want to. You can't make it a chore. You can't make them, if somebody doesn't really want to do it, you can't make them go down to the local farmer's market instead of strolling into the grocery store, right? But if you have something going on that they're interested in.
Yeah, and then it kind of wakens them up, right? And they're like, oh, what are you guys doing over here? Why are you doing it that way?
Yeah.
How sick are you? What you got? High blood pressure? What do you got, man? Well, we can cure whatever you have with the food.
Yep.
Wait, what? Yeah, food was medicine until Rockefeller got a hold of it. Yep. And if you say that in a way that's non-threatening, and you say, hey, look, just do the research, man. It's all out there. Just you got the internet now, man. When I grew up, we didn't have none of that shit. But now
that's a huge component.
Yeah,
we film we film some of these tournaments. We film the dome. We have music going on all the time, and now this is an attraction. This is a big thing that's generating a buzz around a movement that's going to rebuild the foundation of our health, and every piece of our health. All these different components that are separate. The chiropractors, the supplement guys, they created this. They can kind of network together to support one cause that's going to fix us at the surface. That starts with soils. It's about rebuilding our soils in a massive way, as opposed to chipping away at it, right?
And let's face it, if you try to chip away, you're going to lose.
Yeah,
there's just the cost of living, inflation, value of dollar is never going to freaking really change. I mean, dude, I saw an article about in 1977, minimum wage is equivalent to $300,000 a day or $300,000 a year in today's standards. Dude, think about that. And I tell this to people, like when I was growing up, all I had to do was work hard, show up and do the right thing.
You can't
buy whatever I wanted.
No.
I could do whatever I wanted. And they're like,
no. Hey, I got friends that have done it right, gone to college, gotten the job, want to build a family and are hesitant because everything's so tight. It's like, damn. The economic crisis is one thing, and then the health crisis is another thing. And you look at having children, and people are like, why are you trying to save the world? And it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Goes right through me. I go, you kidding me? It's like this is our test. We either got to do something about this, or we're going to bring a generation of people that's suffering even more so than what's going on now. And it's not all bad. That's the thing. It's not all done out of a scarcity standpoint, out of a negative standpoint. It's done out of passion. It's done out of wanting to make the world a better place and having a desire for better.
Perks, use the term, I'm trying to help humanity. you'll never save the world. The world's going to be fine.
That's
The
what
world's going to come
people say.
back
That's what I'm saying.
better
I'm
than
not
ever.
trying to save the world, and I'm not trying to knock down food systems and rebuild these right away so that we have it's like, why can't we revive a farm? Why can't we start with that soil? Why can't we treat these people's soil regeneratively instead of with contaminants? Like, oh, you're trying to save the world. I've had that said to me a couple of times. I'm like, no, this is the part of it that people don't understand. This is an economic opportunity. This is a financial opportunity. This is an opportunity that is needed. It's a business as well as the positive benefits. It's two birds stoned at once. I looked at this a long time ago and said the world's going to be interested in this. There's going to be a need for this. And since then, that's doubled down, tripled down. So this whole character and this whole concept isn't just out of the goodness of my heart and this being scared of bringing people into a world that's more contaminated and more of a health crisis. That is the main driver, yes, but it's also an opportunity. This is needed. Good businesses fix problems with solutions. This is a solution that I can't see done better or in a different way. I always wonder why a lot of people that have the resources, the time, the energy, haven't started their own chain of farms. Why not? What's holding them back from creating the most new? What do you want in life? Do you want really nutrient dense food that you can count on? Do you want healthy people in a healthy community that kind of comes together and takes care of themselves? Or do you want the opposite and do you want to support the destructive style that so many people live in this society? I mean, if I had infinite resources, infinite time, or I could pick what I want to do, time and energy, I know where it would be going. And there's many, many reasons behind it, aside from just wanting to save the world.
Yep. Again, every business model that you look at this point in time is extractive business, mining, food production, clothes production, consumption. Everybody's driven to consume more, which you're just sucking the life out of everything around you. And that's another big problem. And in many ways, you create the solution. Like with me, when I went through the divorce and I went through that really fucking dark time, and I finally got my head out of my ass, I was like, what do I really need in life? Like, I had all these things, 2 big houses, toys, you name it. I never had time to enjoy it because I was so busy working to pay for it.
Yeah,
so what do you really need in
that?
What do you need? You need a
what do you really want?
Food, water. You need to be able to make enough money to support yourself. But beyond that,
in community.
Yeah,
that's a big part of that. And what are people's community? The local bar is their community. That. It's like we could use a couple new communities that are about a little bit more than just either the gym or just the bar, that bring people together in a multi-purpose way. How many rich people and people that are successful do you know that are hollow with their purpose, that can't fill the void, can't figure that out, don't really give back to the world, when the science shows that true happiness and fulfillment, one of the most ways to create that abundancy in yourself is to give back. That's like a religious concept, right?
No, it's deeper, dude. It's deeper.
It's deep. It's scientific. It's physiological. Like when you do things for the world, when you give back, when you create positivity, when you help others, there's a fulfillment there. And you got all these rich people with all these resources and all this, success, and they're sitting there hollow, even if they're healthy. A lot of them are in shape, they're fit, and I've heard so many of these situations where it's like, what are they missing? And I just sit back and I think, if I could have anything in this world, what would I want? I would want healthy food. I want to be surrounded by good people with a positive mindset that want to make the world a better place. And I want a network of communities that would have really cool, fun, exciting things going on. Why is that so much to ask for?
So Perky, when I was doing Marble and Granite, I was working for some of the wealthiest people in the area at the time.
Yeah.
And, I'd be invited to cookouts and parties and stuff like that. And, some social events. And whenever I go to the social events with them, there was two key things that they all gravitated to. How many people did you fuck over this year? And how much more money did you make? That's all they cared about. And it was just so negative. And like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, you guys are like devil worshippers, man. You're just so
See
possessed with greed. More, more, more. It's never enough. Like that billionaire. I told you the story. I worked with his wife a lot. She was a sweetheart. He came into town, rolled in with his CFO, and he was barking and bitching and moaning. And I just said, dude, you're worth $1.1 billion. Why are you still working? You will never spend that in your lifetime. And he just gave me a blank stare.
What would he do?
And the CFO started laughing. And I just stared back and was like, oh my God, you guys are fucked.
Right. Like, and who am I to tell them anything negative? You know, with like, you compare our lives, but it's like, what, he didn't know what to do. And I think that's what lit me up about this whole concept. It made sense to me. It was worth it to pursue this. When a lot of people are like, just get a job. I'm like, you know what, dude, I got a job. I've gotten several jobs. I've done the same thing that you all did, but I also had a purpose and something to pursue that was more. And people laugh at it all the time. And I'm like, I just don't understand. We're pursuing the things that we basically universally want, because there is something that is universal within all of us. You want to be healthy. You want to feel good. You want to be able to function well, and you want to avoid future medical intervention. You don't want your loved ones to suffer and be sick, right? And you don't want to see this. And so the way to really reduce that might not be the easiest, but the science kind of shows us what it is. And if we can reduce the number one cause of that, which is our food and the way our food is produced, and we can start to make changes in that area to kind of reconnect our society with nature, not just from a food standpoint, but from an infrastructure standpoint, from a development standpoint, from the way that we treat our local landscapes, we can start to change that direction. We can start to lower some of the cause of all this destruction and this disease and this disorder, or we could just do nothing about it.
You know, Perks, you bring up a great point, and I think this should be one of your points that you hammer home with everybody. Do you really want to see your family, your friends, your children, your spouse decay of fucking disease? Because if you don't get off your ass and start doing something about it, you're going to witness it, man.
100%.
It's going to hurt. You're going to.
And what they don't know what to do, but that is the essence of the entire thing. We need that, and we have we know what it is. We have the opportunities to do it. And the question is, where would they put their time and energy? They don't have this soil background. They don't have this stuff, right? They don't have this, so they wouldn't know what to do. So this platform kind of gives them a way to just be involved by doing their normal thing, doing their workouts, doing their parties, all that. And now they're contributing to it, and they start to understand it. You know, it's just like people just getting their job and getting by doesn't change any of this. And if we don't, if that's the general standard, then don't look for any change. Look for to bring a child into a world that's worse off than it is now. Nice job. Laugh at me.
So Perky, in many ways, the other side of the Thunderdome is very, very similar to what we call where you bring a bunch of different people together. You give them the opportunity, you rent them a space for an hour or two or a weekend, whatever it is, a collaboration, right? You rent this dome out to them, or maybe the open space over here, the field, whatever.
Yep.
And now they can exercise, you know, whatever it is they want to work.
Their clinic,
whether it's a clinic, whether it's a farmer's market, whether it's a dance or you know, guitar sessions or band opportunities. But if you can rent it out for cheap enough that the farmer now has more income, right?
And more resources to produce.
Yeah.
They don't have anything. They don't have anything. So even if
they have the land, they have the land.
They got the land.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there doing nothing with it. And that's the sad part. There's in every town right now, there's farmland. There's agricultural land, and that is chipping away. When we in Massachusetts, we partner with 3 local farms. And this leads into the story of where I'm at now and why the whole thing happened. We partnered with 3 local farms. All of them had the same issue, zoning. And when I gave the speech, and I even talked about in Stoughton, Massachusetts, I talked to the what was it?
Zoning board. You
The
went through all the
conservation committee and the zoning board and stuff like that. And when I sat in front of them, it was a bunch of older people. And I gave the spiel. I said, we can partner with your rec department. We can partner with your school. We can have all these programs, this and that. They all just went, wow, this is amazing. This is some of the best stuff I've ever seen. And this is beautiful. And then they just didn't know what to do. And then they came back and said, you can grow some crops if you want. And I said, you weren't listening to anything. You don't have a clue what needs to happen. Even the people at the local government level don't have a clue. They're not helping. They're not helping shit. If I was in the local, at the local level there, I would be, having this initiative and being aware of the redevelopment of our local agriculture and how that's dying off and doing nothing and protecting that. Look at what's happening.
You know what happens?
Look at the big, beautiful bill and the land that they just protected with that. There's a reason for it. This stuff matters and affects our quality of life.
You know what, Perky? The reason they deny is because they go back and they meet amongst themselves and like, well, we're going to lose tax revenue because we didn't build a bunch of new houses. We need more money to pay ourselves more.
Yep.
It's greed, dude. It's greed. And I tried to warn you. I tried to warn you about that because you were so high and excited. And you're like, they came back and said this was amazing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Perks, just hang on, buddy. You're going to get let down, man. You're going to get let down.
It's the same illusion. And it's the same illusion that people chase in their daily lives with jobs that aren't fulfilling. And what do you really want in the world? Unconscious behavior, to me, is the definition of doing things and taking actions that go against what you believe and what you actually want without really knowing it or acknowledging it, right? That, to me, is a summing up of what an unconscious human being would do. And if you ask people what they really would want in the world, they might not know. But what most people would say is some of the things I've mentioned already. You want to be healthy. Health is wealth, right? You want community. You want to be surrounded by healthy people like me. You want to be surrounded by beautiful women, whatever it is, right? You want your family members to avoid medical intervention. You want them to be healthy. You want to bring kids into the world that are going to not go through more suffering, but potentially less, right? And then you look at their lifestyle and the way that they live, and they just don't live by that at all. They just live by the opposite of that. And that's what just was crazy to me from the very start. That just didn't make sense. It doesn't resonate with me. So to get people on board with what they actually want, you gotta, we gotta build something that they're gonna want to get into, and kind of just wake them up. But back to the local farming thing in the land. There's farms in all these towns that don't do anything. How do we get them to do something, and not only just do something, but maximize their potential? Come up with a solution for that. The money's not going to come out of thin air. Our fake government is supporting the corporations that are causing all these issues and allowing them to do this. They're not supporting what we're talking about, but the people have the power. And
again, so now, Perky, finally, for the first time as long as I've been alive, the swamp is draining, right? The swamp is draining. They're going to roll back a lot of this bullshit that allowed these guys to get rich and poison us. And these are the kinds of things that you need to go to your local town hall and say, hey, I'm rolling out this program.
Right.
Either you get behind it or we crush you with regulations on your own bullshit, because you can't restrict us from farming the land, getting together, celebrating, exercising, and all these beneficial things that you preventing us from doing right now. Right. And so again, it's a matter of uniting, collecting signatures, sending them into your local senator or your town mayor or whoever's in the power, and just saying, hey, look, this is what we want to do. This is how much support we have. If you don't get behind this, I'm going to go over your head. I'm going to keep going until I crush you, period.
And that's a beautiful thing. I kind of wanted to do that with the town of Stoughton a few years back, but this was, I think, during COVID.
Dude, you were crushed. You were crushed after Stoughton. Like that was.
Well, so that's what led to the next thing. So my next thing was, we live in a virtual world right now, and to get this message out, you can do the same concept as the dome itself. So I said, you know what? I opened a space to train people in Millis, Massachusetts. I was so tired of being in Millis. I felt very used by my I guess a lot of my clientele or a lot of the people around. And I hadn't built something that was going to be a longer lasting, I guess, career. It wasn't going to support me in the ways that I needed in the future to have a family, stuff like that. Although I got by, I made my money, I had my client base. I had a full book of clients all the time. I had a name in the area. It wasn't helping me grow, and it wasn't helping this vision at all. So I opened that space up, and I went, you know what? This is not what I want. And I realized that the online model of what I'm building is so much better. And not only that, my system and style was perfect for the online model, online fitness. So I moved to Florida, built it all into a system, and started to cultivate my yard to put up the dome and build a virtual content center in the dome. And I built it into 3 simple phases. 1, build the online system, the online fitness system. 2, put up the dome and have music and movement in the dome. So now we're playing DJ sets. We're on the outside of the dome. We're gardening. I had 3 chickens, Martha, Barbara, and Roxanne. We were going to make funny content with the chickens. We were going to do music content. We were going to do soil content with the garden. And we were going to do fitness and all that stuff inside the dome. And it was going to be this content center, right? And this is kind of where I'm at now. And then, so after struggling up here to get the zoning and get this, even though every farm I connected with said, this is exactly what we need. This is beautiful. It's brilliant. Please do this here. The local government's got in the way. So I said, all right, we're going to build it and we're going to project this message to the whole world on a virtual sense. And I went there, I built the system, the fitness system, because when I moved there, I was now settled. I love St. Pete and I didn't want to leave. I was like, now I'm finally content right here and I can build. When I was in Millis, all I wanted to do was leave. All I wanted to do was figure out I was bored. I felt stagnant. I felt depleted by the people around me, kind of. And so I was like, I got to get out. And I did. And it's the best move I made. And I was able to build this system better than I ever thought. My online fitness system right now, very satisfied, which we can get into in a little bit if you want. Very satisfied with where that is and where it's come. And so I built the system and I launched it and it did well. Phase 1 was the online system. I was going to reinvest and I took pretty much all the money I made on that. I bought the dome. I built the platform. I had my chickens. I had everything getting set up in the backyard 2 days before the dome showed up. Hurricane Helene came in, destroyed my house, destroyed all the stuff that I had for it, all my podcast equipment, most of my fitness equipment, all the things that I had brought together. 2 days after the storm, the dome showed up. And then FEMA said, you can't rebuild your house, which didn't have that much damage. We only had about a foot of water, and our land had never had water on it. When we bought our property, I talked to the neighbors, everything like that. They're like, oh, you're good. This has never flooded. It's never come close to flooding. And I was like, okay, sweet. This kind of has to do with the whole soil concept of a few months after we moved down there. All of a sudden these trucks come in because across the street there was 19 acres of grass. And these trucks started coming in, and all this stuff starts happening. We're like, what's going on? They go, oh, they're building a school and a YMCA on that lot. I'm like, what? This is right across the street from our house. So they build up about 8 feet. Like they built this whole lot of grass that all the water in the neighborhood would kind of go to, and it was natural grass. So it would absorb into the soil. It wasn't compacted, right? And so the drainage areas and that we've never had issues one single time. They built it up 8 feet, and then they built a 19-acre parking lot into buildings. So now it's concrete, right? The first storm that happened was Hurricane Idalia. After they built up, we had water up to our house, right up to our house. Talk about development, talk about irony. The area of the drainage all the way up to our house. And then you had Hurricane Helene, which still, it was a huge storm. Who knows? It still could have flooded, but the water pooled in the street after. Things were happening like that had never happened before because they changed the drainage in the neighborhood. And that was devastating. And then FEMA came in and they said, you want help? Do you want help? We said, yes, sure. Like, we'll take some help. Actually, I was sleeping in an RV out front. They knock on the door in the RV. I'm like, who is knocking on the RV right now? I open the door. It's about 8 people. I'm like, what's up? They're like, have you applied? We're here to help you, this and that. So I go, sure. I filled out the application. They came. They didn't say a word to us. They come through the house. They look. They're like, okay, we'll get back to you. And we're like, okay. Send us the thing. We don't know anything about this. I mean, maybe it said it somewhere, but it was hidden as far as we're concerned. But basically, we took what they gave us, which is a little bit of money to help us rebuild. And now they get to decide what our health is worth. And if it's up to the 50-50 rule, meaning if your development is, or if your structure on the property is worth X amount, if you have to spend 50% more than that, then you can't rebuild it. You have to knock it down or you have to sell it. And we're like, wait a sec. So they get to decide what it's worth and how much it would cost to fix it. And so we're like, what? Oh, that was interesting. So I started to fix the house up a little bit, and I was just kind of in this in-between period. And then our real estate agent came in, and he screwed up. Ended up, I don't even want to get into this part of it, but ended up setting us back significantly more after I'd already moved out. But I had the space still, so I put the dome up. I filmed my whole course in the middle of all this, dealing with FEMA, dealing with lawyers, dealing with all of this stuff at a house that was destroyed. My buddy took the chickens. I put the dome up, filmed the course, took the dome down because we sold the house. My real estate agent calls me when the dome was this close to being torn, like down. I already took the whole thing apart and said, hey, they need an extension. And I went, oh no. Then the market crashed. Then they backed out, which I didn't think was possible at the time, which was a huge issue. I was under the understanding this whole thing was done. So the irony of it was poetic. The timing of it was poetic. The fact that the dome was down, and then he calls me right as I'm taking the last piece of the dome apart to tell me that this is, that we're going into an extension, and then the house doesn't sell. So I have the house. I'm going back there soon from the Cape, and I'm not sure exactly what if we're going to get rid of it or we're going to put the dome up in the backyard again. But we're in phase 2, music and movement in the dome. Phase 3 was to put up the facility and start the New Earth design, which would be an actual place, a farm, somewhere. Even if it isn't a farm, like let's say in downtown St. Pete, we put up a warehouse with a dome off the back. And we did all the same things and took all the same portions and put it towards a farm that was off in the surrounding areas of Tampa. That's kind of like, if I did it in St. Pete, that'd probably be the design of it. Or I could go out to the farms in the local community. Bottom line is you have to have a market. You have to have a community of people around you in order to do this, right? So those are the options, and that's where it's at right now. But I just thought it was poetic, and the way basically I moved there to do what I needed to do and found more resistance, which honestly just makes me believe this whole thing's going to happen even more. It was just too ironic the way it all happened.
Well, and I'm going to break in just to let the chat know we're doing a giveaway again today. So put in #biology to enter to win Leighton's course that these guys have been talking about. So
Leighton's course is on my school community. So after the storm, I shut down the old course and I rebuilt everything. I filmed my online fitness, which is a system called the Tiger Transformation. Fitness through fascia, enhance the way that you feel and function by aligning with nature's design. There's a do-it-yourself model, there's a group coaching model, and there's a one-on-one coaching model. And it's 8 modules. Starts with the overview and the foundational principles, which I can get into if you want to hear about it. Then it goes to tiger breathing, then tiger stretching, and then tiger recode. That is part 1. It's 4 weeks. It's restorative. It's designed to get you feeling and functioning well enough to execute part 2, which is the tiger rerun, changing levels, creating a base and gaining leverage, pressing, pulling, throwing, swinging, and striking, then 3-dimensional movement. That's the first 8 weeks. And this is a process where every week you go through and you add something, starting with just breathing, then breathing and stretching, then breathing, stretching, and some postural strengthening. And by week 9, you're ready to pick from one of the 3 programs, which is the new you, general health and fitness, weight loss, stuff like that, the enhanced athlete, locomotive sport, combat sport, and golf or tennis. And then the beautiful being, which is a new and unique approach to aesthetics and attractiveness through fascia-based fitness. All of this under the 3 universal umbrella goals that I think everyone has. You want to feel better, you want to function better, you want to be able to do things, and you want to avoid future medical intervention. I think that this system conquers that better than anything else out there. I think a lot of conventional methods, exercises, and programs compromise that. And so that is what the school community is based around, is that system. The subscription is 10-minute tiger routine, all these different types. And then we have Leighton's course available on that school community as well. So you can join the school community for free. You can purchase Leighton's course, or you can enter into one of these giveaways where you can win Leighton's course. And Ken's going to be giving that out on several different platforms. But Man, that course is so simple and it's so effective. And I already started practicing at the house that got destroyed. So I had all this soil that I was developing. I had these gardens, everything just kind of flourishing right there with the chickens. And then ixnay, I was like on the up, boom, everything brought down. And then I went down for a few months and tried to figure everything out. And then we rebuilt it back up. And now we're in a kind of an in-between period here, but it was just crazy.
Well, Perks, a lot of ways, as you well know, the universe works in strange ways, and man plans and God laughs. And so, bottom line was, you weren't ready.
Nope.
You weren't ready at that point in time, and obviously, you're still not ready because something will pop when it is ready. I mean, you've done all the legwork, you've done the hard stuff.
Right.
Now it's just a matter of
yeah.
So, give yourself a pat on the back and just remind yourself, the end of the day this is how the universe works. And you're a pup, dude. You got years ahead of you, man.
Right.
You're fucking years ahead of you.
Yeah. No, it hasn't been easy. And, we've all been through some shit and whatnot, but this one was just so
close, but yet so far away.
So close, but also just the effects of it were very, very deep in like long lasting uncertainty, dread, you know what I mean? And so just feeling that, and something I've always practiced since I've studied yoga back in 2017, 2018, whatever it was, is non-attachment and not letting the external world dictate my internal circumstances. And for me, part of this vision, it just makes so much sense and it feels so right. And I feel like the gift of what you gave me, the understanding of soil with the ability to do something about it. I mean, how many people have that? You know what I mean? That ability to really make an impact on these farms don't even know how to do it. So I feel like, it's something that that can give the world, but also can utilize as an opportunity and create my own type of success through that. So this vision has always been very clear to me that this is the path. And the reality is, when I do other shit, I do it really well and it doesn't give back. It's like, it just pushes me, why aren't you trusting your gut and staying with this? And I say all the time, if the mission was to build a lemonade stand, the devil or whatever challenges there wouldn't be much. It would be pretty easy. It would be attainable. It would be done. But that's not, when you try to do something of that magnitude, you try to do something good, you try to do something bigger, you're going to face a lot of challenges. You're going to face more challenges. So I'm not surprised by any of it. It hasn't, broken my will at all. It's just been tough to navigate, and it's a tough time frame to go through. A lot of shit to deal with. Just a lot of shit that you don't want to deal with, especially when you're this close to creating what you were doing. I was going to launch everything, start all the content with chickens, all that. But we're going to get back to it, and we're going to revamp that whole thing, and get back on our feet.
Perks, in many ways, it's like exercise. It makes you stronger, right? You're going to be more resilient. You're going to be better at whatever it is that you were going to do than you were at that time. And this is something else that I really want you to talk about, is when you got into sports training, what did you learn that was just absolutely mind-blowing? I don't want to answer it for you because I want you to answer it.
Yeah. The mind and the body are one. And especially in this society, the way we think and our perception, a lot of it is physiological and stored in the body. And I just felt like the physiological health set the basis for every other component of my life, and especially stress. It made other things seem not as hard. Like a cold shower. You take a cold shower, part of that is a heightened stress response that makes the rest of your day seem easy. So it's not as stressful, right? Your body goes through these challenges and develops in a way that makes other things seem easy. Number two is muscle mass is like the healthiest thing you can have. The amount of benefits that it have from just commanding other people's attention or having confidence to pursue this. I think all of that was built off the basis that I built physiologically and with martial arts and whatnot too. And just having that confidence, like, I don't care. It didn't matter what much people thought of me. Didn't matter if they laughed at the vision. Anything like that was kind of secondary to me. And I think that confidence is built in the gym like that. And then the physiological health, the health of the mind and the body is built in the gym. And I was very destructive in my early years. I was in physical therapy 3 times by the time I was 17. I pretty much destroyed my body lifting. And so there can be negative effects to it too. But that also led me to find the most optimal way of doing it. And it led me to figure out really deeply what's wrong with it, even the conventional methods. And it led me to seek alternative things. So I've studied yoga, Goda, Joel Seedman, all these different types of training to come up with my own unique perspective, because the people outside of training that are clients and customers think that there's one way that's right, and the trainers know that way. That's bullshit. That's not what it is. The reality of it is, it's about your coach's experience, the methods that they've seen work for them and their clients, and how much the diversity they have in that experience, and the depth of that, what they've applied it to. If they've trained for jujitsu, if they train for this, if they train for that, bringing it all together. Every coach is different. They're all going to have different mindsets and techniques. A lot of coaches just stick to one thing and demonize everything else, which I don't suggest, because I could have stuck to just lifting my whole life and missed out on a ton of other stuff. So that's what I like about the Tiger Transformation. It brings so many different methods to get better, combines them to eliminate the fluff and the things that I think aren't very beneficial and potentially destructive, yet maximize the benefit, minimize the compromise. So we take the best of all this different stuff, put it into a very methodical and strategic system, and then build your program off of your understanding, which is built on 3 foundational principles. So this whole cool perspective that I think is a game changer in this space, I don't think there's anything out there quite like it. I think it was built off of those young years in the gym. It established my identity, kind of who I am as a person. It sent me on the path of understanding health as wealth, which led me to my catastrophic experience with Western medicine, which led me into you, which led me into a purpose, which led me to where I am right now, which is still in a building phase, and it'll continue that way. I know where I'm headed pretty much at all times, and at least I don't have to question that. While some people that have everything in the world still might not. And I'm not comparing this, but it's one thing that I'm grateful for is that direction, that clear understanding of what matters and what's important.
So I want you to talk about Goda, because nobody has ever heard of that. And that was one of the biggest trips you put me on. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. Natural movement. I was always an athlete. That was based. I really focused on the way that your body feels and functions, and that's why that is like the tagline of my system. It was about human optimization. So I destroyed myself so hard lifting that I knew that there's destructive things. Like my striking didn't feel good. I lost my baseball skills, like my ability to swing a bat, all that type of stuff. And I said, man, I got like crazy tight, strong and powerful, but I lost a lot. And then I found this coach, Joel St. Cyr, who's still my biggest mentor in the fitness space, an absolute legend, fantastic human being. He opened a gym and he had this really unique style that was all about sports performance. And I realized that sports performance training and conventional weightlifting and just gym and weights and bodybuilding weren't exactly the same. Actually, sports performance training and healing and restorative stuff are cut from the same stone, which many people don't realize. And they compromise their abilities and the way they feel and function often in the gym. Don't realize that. So once he started to get this feel really sporty, smooth, high execution, athletic ability type approach, I became obsessed with that. And that was who my style as a coach would be. When I was 19, I already had a full book of clients. Second, I dropped out of college. He hooked me up with a gig because he was my mentor. And when I was 16, I was already helping him teach classes. He was like, you're going to help me. And I was like, done. He's like, you're going to be a coach. I was like, done. And sure enough, picked up like that. I had a full book of clients and I never had to look back until I wanted to grow more, right? So then as my years went on, I was always trying to figure out what makes you feel that smooth athletic ability, what makes you strike your best but be the most powerful. What gives you the centerpiece of all of these benefits? Size, strength, power, athletic ability, flexibility, all that. What is the centerpiece in that? And I found Goda online. I don't know how I found them, but I started to follow their stuff. And a lot of the components that they talked about were things that I had felt in the past. And I was like, man, when I felt my best, that was the feeling. That was what's happening. And it was a lot about this energy exchange, nature's design, which is what I talk about in my system. What are we designed to do? Well, I've broken it down to 2 primary things, and that is breathe well physiologically and move forward well. And if you struggle with either of those 2 things, you are dysfunctional, and you can strengthen that dysfunction in the gym in the way that you work out. Now, took me to a new level of understanding and approach when it comes to all of that. That has a lot to do with what they studied, which was slow motion video. And through slow motion video, they started to realize there was these patterns that the best athletes of all time often displayed. Those athletes were also some of the ones with the best injury prevention and the most longevity. So they transitioned that into what were the athletes that lasted the longest, people that ran marathons at 80 years old, stuff like that. Then they said, they took it a step further. They studied indigenous tribes because they started to realize it had so much to do with the foot and ankle complex. And then they studied adolescence, which they realized, man, almost everybody's born with these type of patterns. And we start to deteriorate over time posturally, primarily because of our lifestyle. Shoes that destroy the foot and ankle complex and our sensory feedback from the ground. And then stagnant and rigid lifestyles, which have to do with chairs and couches and the way that we live these days, basically not needing to do basic activities to survive. We can get away with doing nothing, right? We used to have to do all these things and move around. And this is the nature of our primal being. So once they kind of packaged all that, they came up with 6 global laws. 6 global laws that can be dissected with how well you move forward based off of the energy exchange that pretty much everything in nature utilizes to move forward, which is the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, a spiraled motion. So if we lose that spiral motion, the ability to exchange energy from column to column, and we become locked up, which can happen through stagnation, can happen through poor posture, it can happen through poor nervous system, lifestyle, but it can also be strengthened and amplified in the gym, in the weight room. We lose that. We lose our optimal being, lose our highest performing self. We lose a lot of our longevity. So if we can maintain that ability and assess that ability and know where we're at with it, we're going to feel better. We're going to function better. And then we're going to increase our ability of avoiding future medical intervention, which is something that more people should be focused on when they're working out. And so now my system, between that and the fascia stretching and what I call tiger stretching, the system is just so much better than it's ever been. I can enhance power, strength, and endurance and minimize the compromise as good or better than anything I've ever come across. And the way that I do it is completely unique off these 3 foundational principles, which is number 1, you're a brain and a spine. Everything happens through the nervous system. Then the connective tissue and fascia, which is number 2. It's called the 3-part approach. Nervous system, step 1, calm the mind. Step 2, free the fascia and your connective tissue, which is an interlocking web of tissue that goes from your tongue to your toe in these strands, in these chains throughout your entire body. And the quality of that tissue is what we're focused on in my system. And we know how to affect that tissue. You can't isolate it. People will argue you can't train fascia. Well, when you take the approach that addresses what creates a healthy connective tissue and you feel the effects that has on you, which is what we do, it's undeniable. It's undeniable, the argument there. And then step 3 in that is muscle and skeletal. Most of health and fitness is on the muscle and skeletal level. So your body adapts to its experiences, specifically the most frequent and the most intense. So if I sit in a chair for 9 hours, it's going to start to affect me, especially if I do that every day, because that's a lot of frequency. But if I sit in a chair for 5 minutes, it's not going to change me at all because it's a low intensity, but it's a low frequency. So if I want to do a deadlift and I do a heavy deadlift, that's a high intensity. My body's going to adapt to that. So the most frequent things that we do and the most intense things that we do are what our body shapes to. We utilize that to provide the experience with our body that creates healthy connective tissue that allows for the freedom and function of the muscles and joints and the organs that are underneath the connective tissue. Your connective tissue is like the middleman between your nervous system and your muscle and skeletal system and your organs. So it wraps everything. It packages everything. If your nervous system is in hypertension and you are wired and you are in a constant state of stress response and fear, which is a lot of what our society is, because that's the product we talk about. That's a low frequency product that we talk about that our system kind of creates that we're trying to get away from. Then your body's going to bind and you're going to feel restriction, tightness, in the ability for your joints to articulate and your muscles to expand and contract. And so putting yourself through a lot of stress and trauma in that sense can contribute to that. And I think that the way that we train, addresses that nervous system and connective tissue and fascia to give you the foundations and the underlying principles to build the muscle and skeletal system on an entirely another level. The second three-part approach is, the second foundational principle is zone 1, 2, and 3, posture and firing patterns, which is its own podcast. So I won't get too into it, but zone 1 is your center, your diaphragm, your psoas, and your glutes, which is basically stems from the nervous system. Your psoas connects from your lower thoracic spine to the front of your pelvis, and your glutes. That whole intersection dictates whether you'll compensate outside of that in zone 2 or zone 3. Zone 2 would be knees to shoulders, chest, lat, rib cage, quad, hamstring, femur. If you zone 1 is locked up, it's tight and dysfunctional, it's disconnected, then you will compensate in zone 2 to do the job for zone 1, which drives hip flexion and hip extension. So a lot of people might not know what I'm talking about right now, but that's a deep dive. But this is what you learn in the course, and you set the foundation for. Basically, that applies to any physical activity that you do. Then you go through the whole course where every week you add something in. The third foundational principle is nature's design. You got to breathe well and you got to move forward well. If you can't do those two things, you're dysfunctional, and you can strengthen that in the gym. You should get your body well enough to do those things and then build on that foundation. And that's what
Perks, I can't stress this enough to the audience. What you've done is taken how many years of your deep diving and studying and condensed it down into something that people can learn without having to understand how the clock works.
Like 100%. And that's the thing, is they think the clock works one way in fitness, but it doesn't. It's about a unique perspective and unique approach. It's about the coach that you go to. There isn't one way to do things, and it's about what your coach has been through. And I've trained more different people for more different goals and done more different shit myself than any other 30-year-old you're gonna find. I was obsessed with it all, and I just did so much different stuff. That's what brought this all together. And then when I sat down in Florida, when I moved to Florida, I sat down and put it into a system. It came together like butter, like just. This is exactly what I wanted, something that was going to increase and basically all these benefits at once and minimize the compromise, which is not what a conventional program that I did when I was 16 does. It takes that to the next level. Like, why is yoga good and what are the benefits of that? Well, why is conventional lifting and powerlifting good and what are the benefits of that and what are the downsides, right? And then I've done all of that work for people, put it into an 8-module system, and then they do 4 weeks of a regular course. And at the end of that, they test. And they test breathing, forward locomotion, and then there's a few other things, plus some personal goals that they'll write down. And if they improve, they're a certified Tiger. And that's what I wanted. People that now they're a certified Tiger, they have the opportunity to become a Tiger coach. They have the opportunity to bring other people through the process and the system if they want to do it. But if you are focused on even, let's say, bodybuilding, I still don't think you should sacrifice the way your body feels, the way your body functions, and future medical intervention. I don't think you should compromise those things. So the way that I would do bodybuilding is different. I would go through my course, and then I have a bodybuilding program that I would really build around. The same thing for aesthetics. A lot of people want to look better, but they don't want, like, their shoulders are up front and their connective tissue is shaped in a way that's really not that toned or attractive. A lot of people think they get too blocky or too muscly, especially girls, and they don't really want to lift or they're scared to do that. If you want to get this, like lean, aesthetic, athletic, free fascia, healthy tissue approach, we focus on tissue, tone, posture, physique, energy, and aura, all in one system. I call it the beautiful being. You can't find something out there like that. And it has a lot to do with the Tiger stretching. We do a set of concentrics in strength, and then we do a set of eccentrics in length. And it is just nothing out there like it. I did it today. I do my MMA program, and I lift twice a week for 45 minutes, and I'm strong as an ox on the mats, not to be conceited, but I'm not the best martial artist. There's guys out there, I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and I'm a student of martial arts. But every time I roll, if especially it's at a new place or if it's a new guy, they go, why are you so strong? Why does your body function that well? I have no restrictions. I had all this stuff. I had hip flexor issues. I had shoulder issues. I had back issues. I had all these different things that I basically over the years had to overcome or figure out how to get out of. And that's kind of where I come to this middle ground of what's good, what's bad, and I put it into a system. And now I sell that system, which is about nature's design. I got the natural fitness product into the natural health center that's going to help rebuild the foundation of our health. And I think everyone basically that's in health and fitness should want to support the same thing, whether they do it for me or not. People think it's a lot of ego and stuff. I'm like, bro, this is, if it was ego, and I have an ego, don't get me wrong.
Everybody has to.
I'm not saying I don't have an ego by any means. I have a huge ego and a lot of pride. We all have our flaws, but the vision in the system itself, not many people look at it as a beautiful thing. You know, people laugh at it. People have their take on it. They don't understand it. They think it's too much. They think it's lofty. To me, it's very basic and simple, and it's very clear that that's what I was designed to do. I, at the age of 24, was like angry at the world because of all the things we're talking about. And I wanted to do something about it. And I had this vision. I had this whole vision together. And I didn't pursue it for 4 years because I thought people would think it's crazy. I thought it was too hard to attain. I thought it was lofty. But then here I am sitting there going, I can see this whole thing so clear, why we need this. And I have this gift from Leighton and his process that nobody really understands. And this thing that could be so impactful, and not just impactful, but cool, fun, just a fantastic thing that we can put together. And I wasn't pursuing it. I was like, the world's going to laugh and they're going to think I'm an egomaniac, whatever it was. And then I had that tumor. I lost vision in my eye. And all my other options were suddenly taken off the table. Can't join the military. Can't become a firefighter. Can't operate machinery or trucks. Can't fight, which is kind of what I wanted to do. I was training for my first MMA fight when the eye happened. And it was like, damn, I have this vision that I can feel so deeply over here. And I have all these other things that are like, I'm going to fall back and do because I need safety and security and I want the world to think I'm normal. And then God said, can't do any of that shit. So have fun trying to convince people to rebuild local farming. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I got this tattoo and I committed to myself and never looked back. And that's why I relentlessly pursue this. It's still the same way. If I look at other options, if I look at other things that are on the table, you know, sometimes it's just very clear to you and it doesn't have to be clear to anyone else. And people can say whatever they want until it happens. I don't give a fuck. And I think that's part of the reason that I'm able to do this is I never did. I never cared. And I'll never let that stuff change me or change my perspective. And, you know, when you look at someone who's successful and you ask them what they want in the world and they can't align their lifestyle with it, it just reassures me. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this is out there and it's lofty, but it makes sense.
All right, Perks. We usually break for questions at an hour and a half. We're a little bit late today. I wanted you to finish up because you were so inspirational. I'm so excited that you said about your eye because you know that was a struggle. I remember the time you went through that. You were, you know, you were pretty upset and frustrated. So let's dive into questions. But thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for being so inspirational. It's one of my goals on this channel is to inspire people to jump off the cliff, so to say, in life.
Yeah,
really
pursue yourself into the abyss.
You know, pursue what makes them feel good, not just the money. So take it away, Ken.
Okay, we're going to start with Farmer Cheryl. How can this work in urban environments? How can this work for apartment dwellers, or do they grow on rooftops?
Fantastic question. I love this question. And the reality is it's a concept, right? It's a concept of redirecting energy and resources into localized food production and soil health development from food to landscaping throughout. So the idea for me is we have local farms, right? And in these areas, the dome itself needs a community. We need people to be able to go to it, to engage in these things, to build the resources in the community, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that even the farm has to be there. The farm could be a little bit further out if the space wasn't available. So if you were, let's say you were in Brighton and you wanted to put up an exercise facility or a Thunderdome, and you had to put it up, but you didn't really have the space to build the size farm that you really wanted to. Well, outside, you'd find some type of farm area, maybe a farm that needs help, and you'd be that sponsor, essentially. You would create that there. Now, every dome or every farm isn't just focused on that one farm. It's focused on maximizing that and then working into the local communities with garden programs. It's called the Garden Guy, and then the eco-friendly fundraising program. So we would be able to provide people with soil if they're in urban areas and they want to have a garden outside, or a window box or something like that. We can provide them with soil that's been cultivated through Layton's process, super biologically dense. They know they're going to get good nutrients because they know they have good soil. So there's a multitude of ways that it can be done. It is a concept. Ideally, we would grow as much as we can on that site. And ideally it'd be on a farm, in a pretty rural area, and working ourselves out. However, we need community and we need people. So we need to have an audience. This is one of the big issues, right? Is people say, build a retreat. Why don't you just go into the woods and build a retreat? The people they're not going to go there, especially maybe the 10% that we talk about, but the other people aren't going to go there and support that. That's already out of their way. We're bringing us into society. We're bringing nature back in the thing that supports nature. And then we can work on, being on the outskirts and being as integrated as we can. I mean, think about that bring back Eden concept. How beautiful can we make this place? The limit doesn't really stop. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that answers that question. But
let me add a little to that.
Yeah.
There are also ways like tents, grow tents, that you can set up in your closet, your living room, your bedroom, and you can start to grow your own vegetables right there in the space of your own house. And again, yeah, you could do rooftops, but now you're exposed to the weather. It's seasonal, especially if you're in a place where you get snow. You really only got 6 months out of the year to grow. So, you got to kind of take the concept that he's talking about, bring it indoors, but now you're connected with nature again, right? And that's the whole point. And then that maybe drives you to tell your friend, like, hey, come over tonight. I got some snap peas I'm putting together. Well, how'd you get snap peas? Well, I grew them myself with the soil in this tent, and changes them. And then all of a sudden they want to go out and see the farm and see, learn more about this whole movement. So it drives them slowly away from the urban or the city dwelling back into nature, slowly but steadily. So there's my 2 cents.
100%.
Well, and that kind of really flows into the next question she had. In the urban environment, there is no land, just high rises upon more high rises. What's the regenerative solution for them? And I think your grow tent, is something that can work. Like lots of them, they want to group together. They have, parking lots. They have storage spaces in the basement. And that's a great place to do that kind of stuff and work as a community.
Yeah, parking garages. Think about all the spaces that are not utilized to their fullest capacity. I'm not talking about urban horizontal farms. I'm talking about small scale soil related, because unfortunately most people don't understand those vertical farms are all chemistry, because they can't use soil. So they have no choice but to pump freaking synthetics through it.
Yeah. And so, I think sorry, keep going.
I was just going to say, this is about getting people back to soil, sand, silt, clay, and organic matter, grounding, getting your fingernails dirty, connecting with nature and the soil and the earth. Right. That drives that first step forward in a journey that will open your eyes to a whole bunch more stuff.
Right. And the very bit of land that is in these urban areas, like the very bit, some of that is just the most depleted, compacted, obviously, soil. So if we wanted to grow some plants in there, we just use Layton's process to reestablish that biology, to loosen that soil, to get the filtration going and get the nutrient cycling going in that soil so that you can grow some plants there. You can grow some food there and stuff. But it's not necessarily that the urban areas would be that optimal to grow the food. But the concept of this whole thing would be to get this nutrient dense food that's not mineral deficient and nutrient deficient into those areas. And that's not going to happen by coming from the other side of the country. You know what I mean? It can happen coming from within 100 miles. You know, we can do that daily. We can do that type of deal. And you could have an area of concentrated people. If we don't have the land there, we build the structure, we build the facility. This is what I talked about in St. Pete. If we put up a giant warehouse and we put up a dome coming off the back with the cafe in the front, which I came up with another name for that, which is fantastic. But the cafe in the front, with basically that works with the farms and is focused on only healthy food, and it's very simple. It's not restaurant like. It's just about getting access to healthy meals in an efficient way. And then we hosted a ton of stuff at this. We had a full exercise schedule. We had educational courses throughout the week, and then we had huge events there. Well, now we take a portion of our proceeds and everything that we get, a large portion, and we start to build our own farms all on the outside. We support these farms. We get new farms, and that's the goal. It's a redirection of energy and resources by drawing in attention and attraction and getting people to engage in practices that they want to, that they already do, in a way that supports the redevelopment, the rebuilding of the foundation of our health, which is soil.
Think about how many warehouses are abandoned across this country. Right? You could rip up the parking lots and grow right there. And they're zoned commercial, so you don't have to worry about fighting zoning. You just got to be a good neighbor, not have wild raves that go to all hours of the night. Or
that's one of the things. Even the party type of stuff, healthier type of party. Like let's end at 10. You know what I mean? Let's have a 5 to 10 musical event and get people to come there, start to align with the circadian rhythm and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be like, you know, a rave just because there's music there. There's just there's all sorts of different things that we could offer. And I love the competition sense. I mean, you know, instead of all of our money and resources going back into these big corporations, Planet Fitness, whatever the hell it is, we kind of redirect it in a way that supports us.
Yeah. And there's lots of people that are doing urban gardening. They're ripping out their lawns, you know, by their houses, and they're planting gardens and you know, having that produce available there. That's another thing that Cheryl is saying, that, you know, the cost of, you know, artificial lighting, etc. But there's cost of food.
LED. They're so affordable and they're so good now. There has been billions sunk into that industry in the last 10 years due to cannabis legalization. So some of the stuff out there, if you want to research really good LEDs, go to the cannabis community and start looking at who's talking about what, because they're wide open with, oh my God, this one, the yields are so much better. And the cost of lighting them is nothing. It's pennies on the dollar. It's not like the old days with HPS and metal halides.
And you can still use soil. That's the most beautiful part to me. I mean, hydroponics are great, but soil. Yeah. Soil.
So now this is to your point of exercising, weighted vest, hike the forest snow paths, and that's going to give you a hell of a good exercise.
Yeah, try to use, I mean, you're in the forest, so it's it might be a little bit tougher, but if you can use a barefoot shoe, I mean, that rucking like that is one of the healthiest exercises you can do. We are designed to move forward. There's certain ways that we're designed to produce power, strength, endurance, and to move. And the example I use is a dog doesn't kill things with its paws, kills things with its jaws. If it starts to develop itself to be really good with its paws, it's probably going to face some issues. It's not going to be that efficient, right? There's areas, if you go to wrestle someone, if you go to pick something up, you don't really get into a deep squat, right? Mm-hmm. So I take all these theories. When you go to punch, you know, you're not into these deep ranges of motion. There's certain ways that we develop force. One of them is walking, moving forward, and then it's swinging, throwing, striking, and crawling, really. There's not that many. We pick things up, we carry things. Those are natural movements. If you can overload those and build strength and endurance and power through those movements, you're going to align with your physiology better. And you're going to minimize the compromise of what a lot of the conventional fitness world does, which is chase a rabbit hole of correctives. I used to do every corrective to try to fix my body. And now I don't have a corrective. I have a system. And I don't have a kink. Will not have a hip flexor issue. Will not have a hamstring issue. Will not have a shoulder issue. Every time I go to strike, I feel great. And yet I'm still developing power, strength, and endurance. And I went through the opposite.
Yep.
Man, the questions are keeping up with the fucking pace.
I know. Is a food garden in the city a possible toxic problem with smog and rain?
Absolutely. A lot of these cities
100%.
have built up residuals from coal use, from industry.
Oh yeah.
So this is where you have to be really careful. You need to do
Absolutely.
bioremediation and testing to make sure that you don't have what we call bioavailable toxins. Like if you have lead in the soil and it's not bioavailable, it's not going to be uptaken by your plants.
Right.
It's a bit of a deep dive. Probably at some point in the future, I'll have to do an episode on it. But for right now, I always tell people, err on the side of caution. Probably better to build on top of the soil, create some kind of barrier between the bottom of what you're building and what you're building on top of it, so the roots can't penetrate down into the soil. That'll avoid, expensive testing and bioremediation. But as far as smog, it's been vastly reduced for the most part. I'm not overly concerned with regular exhaust from an engine. Generally speaking, natural gas is in most heating systems nowadays, so you're not getting the heavy metals and residual toxins from the coal or the wood, for that matter. Is the rain toxic? Yeah, you got to look at your weather patterns. Typically, we call these prevailing winds. Generally, the wind's going from west coast to east coast. So if you're in a zone that's after where the rain goes through, or the what we call the rain builds or pulls the moisture up, yeah, it's an issue. One of the great things was Bob from BioAg, before he retired, would talk about collecting rain in Oregon and how it was so pure because it was coming off the ocean, right? So there's ways to purify your rainwater too. So just do your research, do your homework, be diligent, and yeah, you can do this anywhere for sure.
And if you're packing buckets of water, that's really good exercise.
Or packing buckets of soil to build your new garden.
Well, and I did want to point out, see this one here. Grow tents require natural lighting, don't they? Oh no, that wasn't. It's the next one here. No, where? Maybe I didn't put it down, but anyway, it was saying use Leighton Morrison's horizontal soil system if you're going to be growing indoors. Use that system. You can do it in 5-gallon pots. So
yeah, so just go to YouTube, search Leighton Morrison, Leighton Morrison, soil horizons, and you will find it. And,
yeah,
there is a new modification. We're using a little bit more organic matter in the A horizon and getting even better results. So, and you can always reach out to me on Instagram. I'll hook you right up.
And it was this one. If a friend has a room to convert with lighting, soil, and soil horizons and LEDs. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we now? Let's see. I've heard that losing strength in your legs is the start of the end of lifespan. What do you say, Jim?
100% spot on. The studies show it. Science all proves it. Muscle mass in your legs is a direct correlation of lifespan, quality of life later in life, and the need for medical intervention in the future. So muscle mass, especially in the legs, is a huge telltale sign of the future of your health. So build up your legs, get them nice and strong. And that's a great question. It's a great point.
I just want to remind people we're giving away Leighton's chorus again. So, I'm hitting the wrong thing here. Hashtag biology. We're going to be giving it away after the next question. So if you haven't put in hashtag biology yet and you want Leighton's chorus, get there and put that in the live chat. Our last question, Perky. You are a true inspiration. I would like to know if you will be visiting anywhere near my area. I'm near 50 miles north of Kansas City, Missouri. I love your whole concept.
Well, first off, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. That means a lot. When someone else is interested in it, it really lights me up. And I think it's just something I feel like we should all be interested in. You probably feel the same way. It's it's something that's going to benefit all of us and that is drastically needed. I don't know if I'll be in that region at all. I'm in like kind of like a I guess a transition point here as far as my house. And I mean, now I'm in Cape Cod. I'm at my grandma's house. Well, I'm up here with her for a couple weeks with her, but I'm going back to the house there, and I don't really have many travel plans until I figured that out. But once I do, I'd be happy to come up that way. If you ever make it down to the St. Pete area, come on down. Or if you just want to reach out and talk, I'm happy to hop on a Zoom and go over any of this stuff. When people, I've done it several times where I've just posted some stuff or on the on my Instagram or whatever, and people see it and they're like, "Hey, can we just hop on a Zoom?" And we just talked about it. So I'm always happy to do that. When people are interested in it, we're all on one mission here, really.
And one last point, still, Lily, it definitely is called Leighton Morrison Soil Horizons. So it's the study of the soil horizons. And it is about the horizontal system, but it's first educating you on why the horizontal system works as well as it does. So just wanted to make sure it's easy for people to find. Thank you, though, Sil.
Well, Leighton, you're going to have to, or I'll have to look up Shango's podcast with you and have it in the back end so I can put up the link.
It's actually from the Future Cannabis Project. Shango had me on interview. Like we've talked, numerous times, numerous podcasts with him. We did one on the soil horizontal system. But if you really want to see it, then go to YouTube and search that. And Peter from the FPC, that video comes up first. But just keep digging. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Cool. So let's run the contest, guys.
Good luck, everybody.
Here we go. I've got my name in there, so if I win, we'll just run it again. And it's Dirt Right.
Yeah, congratulations, bro.
Good karma.
Yeah, he's been on the podcast for quite some time. So congratulations. I'm happy that you won.
And he's been one of our guests. So if you guys want to check out the episode we did with him, you can look it up on It's All About the Biology. Just go to the search bar, check it out. Dirt Right. You're going to have to just send me I have your email, so I'll just get a hold of you with the right links. Okay. Guys, what a fantastic podcast. Perky, you have so much information to share. People don't understand the correlation of movement and their body and the blockages that they have, and you're talking about removing those blockages by the way you're moving. I'd love to introduce you to Dr. Paula Ruffin. She comes on every Sunday. She's a chiropractor. I think you guys would have a fantastic conversation. We'll have to try to get that arranged.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We'd love to talk to her. Yeah. Anyone in that holistic space, it's always good to kind of bounce off of each other,
It's called cross-pollinating. I love it. Definitely connect the two.
Yes, definitely. Guys, do you have anything else you'd like to talk about? We got a couple of minutes left.
I think you covered it all, Perks. I'm just really happy that you dove down the rabbit hole. The first hour, we were highly focused on identifying problems, identifying solutions, and then we got another hour to really kind of dive into your experiences, because I don't think you represent yourself well enough. Like you think you've got an ego. I don't think you have an ego. I think you have pride. I think you're driven. But the amount of work that you've done since I met you as a teenager is amazing. Like you tell me I dove down rabbit holes, dude. You did just what I did, and you did it on your own, and you should be very proud of that. And I know a lot of the language is going to be difficult to convert to layman's terms.
Like you with soil.
I still think you did a really good job. Yeah, you drifted out of the box a little, but you admitted it. You said, hey, this is a little deep. I'm using some crazy language. That's all you got to do to inspire them. To maybe, hey, look, this guy's really talking some heavy shit. Maybe I ought to look into this to better understand it. And basically, you are the fountain of youth, dude. If you start practicing this at your age or younger, you're going to live longer, more healthy, and be more successful because you do have mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
So Kudos to you, dude.
That's
You
what I
did-
do have right now. So I appreciate that. And, you know, as just a dude, sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. And then, you know, the storm and everything really took me for a ride there. So I was in a tough space for a while. I'm trying to get back on the positive horse. And I mean, if you asked me a year ago where I was thinking the business was and everything like that, I would be a little probably more positive. But I know I appreciate those words.
Hey, Jermone Knight 79. Make protozoa tea by getting up before the sun comes up. As soon as the sun cracks, cut the hay or the grass, throw it in a bucket, and then use it an hour or two later. That's really how you harvest protozoa. If you let it sit, it's going to ferment and they're going to die. So protozoa tea has to be fresh. And you have to collect it when the dew is on the grass. That's when the protozoas are present. Otherwise, they dry up and die or fall into the soil when the dew rolls off the leaf. Quick little ad. 2 years.
Wednesday, Andy and I are going to be talking about are we starting to go into an ice age? So you're going to want to check that out. Remember, chiropractic is sexy on Thursday with a couple of our local chiropractors. There's so much happening, guys, and we're going to be starting to do more of these giveaways. The Monday show for Leighton's Chorus, and he's also talking about giving away some product if you pay the shipping. You know, so that's something that's going to be coming up too. Most of you don't know that Leighton has all these products that he has created. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start promoting a little bit more of Leighton stuff.
Well, it's about getting tools into people's hands. Yeah. And you ought to bring Perky into the chiropractic or into the Thursday show as well. I mean, those guys would friggin' dig on what he's talking.
Yeah, I would love to talk because I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my soil. But as far as the biology goes, I can't even talk with Leighton so many times. One of the good things I'm in this for is to get his messages through and utilize all the stuff that he knows and try to get it out there, make the course, get the dome up, get the process, you know, more widespread. But when it comes to the fitness, that's when I can do my thing, talk that talk, you know.
So connect him with both Thursday and Sunday's group. I think that would really blow their mind because he can talk their language.
Yes, definitely. And like Silly Lily says, come back again, Jim, please.
Absolutely, Lily. I appreciate it. I will.
Okay, guys.
Peace out.
Goodbye.
All right, Ken.
Thanks as always, brother.
Appreciate you guys.
Peace, everybody.
Until next time.